Bob Marley must have really liked playing soccer. Bob Marley, One Love, starring Kingsley Ben-Adir and Lashana Lynch, is the story of how the reggae icon Bob Marley overcame adversity and the journey behind his revolutionary music. Now, with all the hate going around the internet about Madam Web, I haven't seen it yet. I plan on seeing it. I don't know if I'll review it and add to the absolute downpour that movie is getting, and from everything I've seen, rightfully deserved. I went out and I saw Bob Marley, One Love. I am a pretty big Bob Marley fan. I have a few of his vinyls off to my side over here, and I had pretty tempered expectations going into this movie. I remember seeing that it was going to be released in November, then I saw that it was pushed back to January, and then eventually got released this Valentine's Day, and it was alright. As a Bob Marley fan, you can definitely enjoy this movie. You can enjoy just sitting in a theater for about what felt like an hour and a half, even though it was a little bit longer, and just listen to Bob Marley music. I had a good time because I am a pretty big fan of Bob Marley's music, but from a movie narrative perspective, this movie is not the greatest, but I'll get into that a little bit later on. I only listed two actors because Kingsley Ben-Adir and Lashana Lynch are the stars of this movie. They steal every single scene that they are both in, and Adir is in probably every single scene. He does a very good job portraying Bob Marley. There's a little thing before the movie from Ziggy Marley basically saying, like, this is the story that we wanted to tell, that I was on set basically every single day making sure that this is the legacy of my father. And if the entire Marley family feels like this is the correct story of Bob Marley and this is what he was, then I'm glad that they told this story. I'm glad that they felt the way that they did and told the story the way that they did. But overall, I did enjoy it as a Bob Marley fan. But as a movie fan, I have some pretty big gripes about it. Again, I'd like to mention that I personally still enjoyed this movie, and the performances in it were stellar. The narrative of this movie is just a jumbled mess. It is all over the place. It starts off, minor spoiler, it just makes you read basically about Marley's origin story and how he got to where he was at the start of the movie. And it's just a classic example of tell, don't show, whenever it should be show, don't tell. There were so many opportunities and so many ways that they could have started this movie, and it seemed like they just didn't have an idea of where in Marley's life that they wanted to start. There's a lot of flashbacks in this movie that serve little to no narrative purpose, and I was asking myself in the theater throughout the entire thing, like, what about this scene mattered? I mentioned it in my opening comment. He must really like soccer because there's at least 10 clips of him just going around kicking a soccer ball. And yeah, I get it. Bob Marley, sure, he likes soccer. But that doesn't add anything to this movie. It doesn't add anything to the stories that they're trying to tell. And they try to tell so many that it just becomes a jumbled message. It starts off with his involvement in politics and everything that he's doing for a peace concert in Jamaica when they're at the height of a civil war. And then it turns into him trying to make the Exodus album and the musical process there. And I'd like to mention that all the narrative parts of him making the music, I think, were amazing. There's a sequence where he's singing I Shot the Sheriff, and it's phenomenal. The process of him making the song Exodus is absolutely amazing. And some of the scenes between him and Rita Marley are fantastic as well. But just, they don't have enough time to develop. They don't have enough time to tell the full story and get to the main point, because I really do think that there is a very good movie in here. They just didn't tell the full story, and I think that they could have told a lot more about Rita and Bob Marley and their relationship, because if you read Rita Marley's book, basically her experiences with Bob, how she raised Bob's kids with other women, and some of the crazy things that she had to go through. There's definitely a story to be told there, but they sideline it for almost half the movie while he's in London just making music, and she just completely disappears for like half the movie. And it really starts to slow down at those points, and it's never able to fully flesh out her story and her and Bob's relationship, even though there are aspects of this movie and that relationship that are shown in a very good way. This movie also, it just doesn't know where to end. I mentioned that it didn't really know where to start. It didn't really know where to end either. It just kind of ended with him going back to Jamaica for another peace concert, kind of where the movie started, and you don't really feel anything about it. It's just, oh yeah, he started the movie with a peace concert. Oh, now it's time to go back to Jamaica, and it doesn't really explore any of the political turmoil and all of the angst and everything that happened in between the time that he was in Jamaica for the first peace concert and then the time that he was in Jamaica for the second peace concert. There's nothing really set up, and there's just so many scenes in this movie that just feel completely pointless. There's about 20 to 30 minutes of this movie that you really have to pay attention to understand any sort of narrative and to understand what this movie was trying to tell, because so much of it was just completely pointless, didn't serve any purpose. But again, as a Bob Marley fan, and if you are a Bob Marley fan, I think this is a movie that most people can enjoy. Whenever I walked out of the theater, I was standing, waiting around, and just being in earshot of a lot of people walking out of the same theater as me. They were saying, yeah, that was good, had a good time, that was really good. So if you're a Bob Marley fan, I think most people will enjoy this movie. If you're a movie fan and just a movie fan and you don't give a shit about Bob Marley, you probably won't enjoy this movie at all. But for me, again, I enjoyed it. I had a decent enough time. I'd give it a solid 3 out of 5 stars over on my Letterboxd. Link for that down in the description below. Let me know what you thought of Bob Marley One Love down in the comments below, and we will see you in the next movie review.